Hello everybody, welcome back to the Inner Sanctum YouTube channel. I'm your host, Ari Stamatakos. Today, we're here with another video around the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar. Now, as you can tell by the title and the thumbnail, we'll be previewing Group G, consisting of Brazil, Serbia, Switzerland, and Cameroon. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, let's start things off with one of, if not the favourites for the tournament, and that is Brazil. Now, we'll take a look at their qualification campaign. Of course, a very, very tricky South America qualification system. Brazil eased past that with relative ease. From the 17 games they played, they won 14, drew 3 and lost absolutely none. They had a plus 35 goal difference, scoring 40 goals and conceding only 5. Now, when you compare that to Argentina's only plus 19 goal difference, that just goes to show just how good they were throughout qualification. Now we'll take a look at their most recent continental tournament. Of course, it was the Copa America last year, and of course, it did end in heartbreak with a 1-0 loss to Argentina in the final. However, before that, they did win all but one of their games. The only game that they didn't win was their final group game against Ecuador. They drew that game 1-1. However, they did beat Chile and Peru 1-1 in the games before the final in the knockout stage. Now, when we take a look at their appearance at the World Cup 4 years ago in 2018, it was a loss to Belgium in the quarterfinals. Now, of course, this was a Brazil side that was pretty much scarred from their 7-1 loss against Germany back in 2014. So 4 years later, they weren't able to overcome that. They fell at one stage. They fell at one stage earlier than what they did 4 years ago. And granted, it wasn't in as heartbreaking circumstances as what it was back in 2014. However, they should have gone further than what they did 4 years ago, and they will be looking to avenge that loss against Belgium now in Qatar. Now, when we take a look at how Brazil play when they do have the ball and when they don't have the ball, they do like to play in a very, very structured 4-2-3-1 system that pretty much plays like a 4-3-3. Of course, without obviously a true recognised proper number 9, Neymar does like to occupy that number 9 position alongside Vinicius Jr. on the left-hand side and Rafinha on the right-hand side. That midfield three does like to involve one true defensive midfielder, and when you do have the likes of Fabinho or Casemiro to pick, it's pretty much whoever's fitter on the day, or it's a coin flip pretty much. They do prefer Casemiro more often than not alongside the likes of Fred or Bruno Guimaraes, or maybe even Lucas Paqueta, who's having a fantastic season for West Ham in England. Now, when we take a look at how they do like to play, Brazil press in a very aggressive yet structured manner. They are very aggressive in terms of the way that they want to defend. They do like make a lot of defensive actions high up the pitch in order to counter press and turn the ball over to get the ball in areas where they can hit one pass and then go up to their more creative players like Neymar, like Rafinha, like Vinicius Jr. Now, they do have a way of playing which is very, very synonymous to the Brazilian style. It is very aggressive, it's very assertive, it's very flamboyant, that is really driven around flair and around expressing yourself. So we should be able to see some Brazilian players this tournament really show just how good they are. They are one of the favourites for the tournament for a reason. This could be Neymar's last World Cup to get his elusive World Cup trophy. And of course, 2018 they weren't able to avenge their heartbreak in 2014. Maybe they can do that in Qatar and really show the world just how good they are and live up to their title as the favourites by winning the entire tournament. So let's move on to the second team in Group G, and that will be Switzerland. Now, Switzerland's World Cup qualification campaign actually went a lot better than what many people expected. They were drawn in a group with Italy, Northern Ireland, Bulgaria, and Lithuania, and from those 8 games, they won 5, drew 3, and didn't lose a game. They finished with a plus 13 goal difference, scoring 15 goals and only conceding 2 throughout those 8 games, which shows they're incredibly defensively solid, which is something we'll touch on a little bit later. When we take a look at their most recent continental campaign in the 2020 Euros, they finished in the quarterfinals, having beaten France in the round of 16 on penalties, which was probably the upset of the tournament. However, in the next round, they did lose to Spain on penalties. So I guess footballing karma came back to bite them in a sense. When we take a look at their most recent World Cup campaign back in 2018, they did get through their group, which actually consisted of Brazil and Serbia as well. They won 1 game and drew 2 of those games. They beat Serbia 2-1, which saw them advance through to the round of 16, where they did get knocked out by Sweden 1-0. Switzerland, they do like to play a very structured and very disciplined system. They do line up in a 4-2-3-1, and they tend to be very direct with their ball movement. They do like to be very direct in terms of aerial ball movement. They do like to get the ball up to their strikers in a quick aerial manner in order to get the ball down and really distribute from the attacking area as quickly as possible. They are very defensively sound as well. They do like to sit in low blocks or mid to low blocks as much as possible, and are very structured and compact compact in the way that they do like to play. They do set up typically in a 4-1-4-1 in the final third when they do have the ball, and Granit Xhaka is sitting in that defensive midfielder position because of his good range of passing, his ability to act as a very good one-on-one defender and a defensive stopper, as well as his very good vision and passing range, which I've just mentioned. They do like to play when they do not have the ball. They are very structured in the way that they do like to press. They are very ball-orientated press. They are very ball-orientated when they do like to press, and they do like to sit very compact and very narrow. They do like to force teams out wide in order to get crosses into the box. Now, when we do look at Switzerland, of course, will they be able to replicate what they did in the Euros? Well, I guess only time will tell. They are drawn in a very similar group to what they were drawn in 4 years ago, and they did, of course, advance through that group. Now, of course, Brazil and Serbia have arguably gotten better since the 2018 World Cup. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see whether or not Switzerland can replicate what they did back in the Euros and shock the world in Qatar. So let's move on to the third team in Group G, and that is Serbia. Now, when we take a look at Serbia's World Cup qualification campaign, they were drawn in a group with Portugal, Republic of Ireland, Luxembourg, and Azerbaijan, and they actually finished first in that group ahead of Portugal, winning six of their 8 games and drawing the remaining 2 games. They finished with a +9 goal difference, scoring 18, which was actually 1 more goal than Portugal throughout that qualification campaign, and conceding 9. When we take a look at them at the World Cup 4 years ago, they did win one of their games 1-0 against Costa Rica before losing both their games against Brazil and Switzerland, which we just mentioned, of course, with the Swiss. They do have a very similar group to what they did 4 years ago. They didn't qualify for the most recent European Championship campaign, so it is a squad with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, and a squad that will be looking to prove a lot of doubters wrong heading into Qatar. Now, when we take a look at how Serbia will be looking to play, of course, with the likes of Alexander Mitrovic and Dusan Vlahovic up top, Serbia's system is geared around getting the absolute best out of those 2 players. When you have those 2 talents up front, 2 very physically gifted strikers, 2 very good finishers as well, 2 players that are very good aerially. Furthermore, the system is geared to get the best out of them and is geared to suit their strengths. They do like to set up in a 3-4-2-1 system with the 2 strikers up front, with Dusan Tadic playing in that number 10 role. Filip Kostic on the left-hand side is another one of Serbia's key offensive and key creative players that will be looking to have an influence in the final third, especially. When we take a look at what they do set up, maybe defensively, they have a very tight and compact double pivot, which is set up in a way to prevent defensive transition on the counter attack. They aren't very susceptible to counter attacks, and one of the reasons for that is a 3 at the back system that likes to sit very deep and very compact, as well as a double pivot slightly ahead of them, which is very good at both putting out spot fires and really acting as 2 very good defensive stoppers, as well as being able to retain possession, retain the ball, and really not allow counter attacks in their defensive third. With the size and the physical presence of both of these strikers, their main real way of playing football is crosses, is set pieces, is getting the ball aerially to those 2 strikers. From their 13 goals in their most recent Nations League campaign, 5 of them came from set pieces, and that is just something that we'll be looking to expect heading into Qatar. Now, being defensively solid and springing teams on the counter attack with width is the way that Serbia will probably be looking to attack most teams heading into the tournament. And with the likes of Tadic and Kostic supplying those 2 strikers, you can't really blame them in that regard. Now, obviously, if you want a more in-depth breakdown, we did cover Serbia in our 3 dark horses heading into the World Cup video, which is already on the Inner Sanctum YouTube channel. So if you want a more in-depth, comprehensive preview of what Serbia could be looking to do heading into the tournament, then you can go check that out in that video, which is already on the YouTube channel, like I said. However, what Serbia will be looking to do is avenge the wrongs back in 2018. They did lose to both Switzerland and Brazil, with a squad which is much more experienced, which is a squad that has a lot more talent than what they did 4 years ago. They could be looking to get through the group and avenge those 2 losses back in 2018. And who knows, with Mitrovic and Vlahovic, who can score from, if you give them each half a yard, they'll take a mile. Serbia could be a real dark horse heading into the World Cup, and could shock a few nations heading into the World Cup in Qatar. Let's take a look at the final team in Group J, and that is Cameroon. Now, when we take a look at Cameroon's World Cup qualification campaign, it went off pretty much as expected without a hitch. They were drawn in a relatively tough group with Ivory Coast, Mozambique, and Malawi. However, they did finish top in that group from those 6 games, winning 5 of them and only losing 1. They obviously went through to the playoff system, where they actually lost their first tie against Algeria 1-0. However, they actually went away to Algeria and won 2-1, which saw them go through on away goals through a Toko Ekambi 124th minute goal in pretty much the last kick of the game, which was absolutely extraordinary. When we take a look at their most recent continental tournament, of course, the African Cup of Nations earlier on this year, they did get all the way to the semi-finals before losing to Egypt in heartbreaking circumstances. However, now when we take a look at Cameroon, they are a team that do play a very particular style, and it is very accustomed to what we should expect from a team that doesn't have the talents of the likes of some other nations, especially in Africa as well as in Europe and in Asia as well. They are a team that do like to play direct football with the likes of Toko Ekambi up front. They do like to get the ball to him and to other players of that ilk as quickly as possible through long balls, and they do like to do this from pretty much from their initial build-up phases. They don't like to play the ball out from the back. They are very direct. They like to hit the channels, and they do like to hit long balls up before they can then create from that position. Now, once the ball is played long to that target man, in a sense, the objective from Cameroon is to really win the second ball and then build from there. That's how they like to play, and if they can get the ball from that second ball, if they get a flick onto a marauding wing back or to a marauding winger getting in behind the defense, that's how Cameroon will be looking to play heading into Qatar. Now, when we take a look at their defensive system, it doesn't really suit their offensive system in a sense. When you think of a team that likes to play long ball, likes to play direct football, you'd expect them in the defensive side of things to sit back and soak up pressure to hit teams on the counter attack. However, they are very aggressive pressers. They do like to press high up the pitch. They like to make most of their defensive actions in the opposition's defensive third, in the opposition's middle third, and they do like to sit in a high block, mid block, to really put the opposition under as much pressure as possible. They do like to stifle the opposition's build-up plays from those areas in the defence, in the middle third, before they can advance the ball up the pitch to their attackers. What the objective of this is to press really intently to get turnovers in their final third, so they can quickly go hit the counter, press really quickly, and get their most creative players in the areas as much as possible. However, with that saying, when they do come up against slightly better opposition, which they probably will come up against in the World Cup, they are very comfortable in sitting in a low block. They are very comfortable in sitting in a low block, which is very compact, stifles the opposition's chances at breaking in between the lines, passing through the channels, and they do like to sit back to then hit those long balls on the counter attack up to Toko Ekambi and the other target men. Obviously, Cameroon will probably be the least favourites getting out of this group heading into Qatar. However, they definitely have the talent, they definitely have the ability to shock the world, and who knows, they could have the chip on their shoulder losing in the semi-finals to Egypt in the African Cup of Nations. They could have a chip on their shoulder to really show just how good they are and cause some shocks heading into Qatar. So yes, thank you all very much for watching another video here on the Inner Sanctum YouTube channel, where we preview Group G of the 2022 FIFA World Cup. Make sure you leave your predictions in the comment section below. Who do you think will get through and advance from this group heading into the round of 16? Make sure you subscribe to the Inner Sanctum YouTube channel, like the video. See you guys next time, and goodbye.